Are robots and automation going to revolutionize small-scale farming? Or are they going to bring about death and destruction upon the world? We're talking about it in today's video, which is sponsored by my friends over at Pet Libro.
What do you think about it, Abby Dabby Doo? Do you think robots and automation are going to be a good thing for farming?
I mean, because just let me tell you guys, I have a lot of thoughts on this topic. Would you look at this? We have an honest-to-goodness door in here now. Come on in.
Yeah, I'm still doing some interior work and cleanup work, but things are coming along nicely. Abby, it's so much warmer in this building, isn't it? Yeah, so yesterday I finished off the doors, which open inward, and I also put up this chicken wire fencing to keep the geese from poking at the plastic. The dogs are really liking it in here.
And I'm really liking it in here too. Abby dog, I didn't mean to take you out.
Come here.
I think they're still getting used to the fact that there's doors now in this structure. But yeah, now that we're getting close to having our final big infrastructure project done for 2022, I've started to turn my attention to the farm's future. And you know, as I think about my farm's future, the biggest thing I know I need to do with my farm is scale it up. And while our farm has been profitable over the last several years, it isn't large enough to truly create an income enough to support a person without doing things like videos on social media. And for my farm specifically, scaling up means I need more help. You know, if I were to try to quadruple the number of ducks and geese we have on our farm, or I wanted to add more cattle or introduce more enterprises like raising pigs for meat as a business, I'm gonna need more help. There's just too much to do around here for one person, particularly if I keep adding more enterprises to the farm. Now, the obvious option for most folks would be I should just hire help. The challenge is, like in most other parts of the country, there's a labor shortage here in Vermont's Northeast Kingdom. And if I were to hire an additional person to work on the farm would no longer be profitable. And hiring somebody to make my business unprofitable just seems like a bad business decision. Which is why the idea of automation and like bringing on robots or something like that to make my job easier is something I've been investigating. And believe you me, I've found a lot of information that I want to share with you guys. And you know, when I talk about automation, I'm not necessarily talking about having gangs of robots roaming the farm. In fact, one of the best labor-saving innovations I've had on the farm this year was the addition of these water lines all around the farm. You know, for like the cost of about, I don't know, $1,500 in materials, I have saved myself thousands and thousands of hours. You know, if you go back a couple of years and look at my old farm videos, half the farm videos were like me pumping water for birds. So with just a couple quick flicks of switches, I'm able to give all of my cattle all of their water for the day, and the water source is about 1,300 feet away. And so when I'm talking about farm automation and innovations, that right there is a perfect example. So it doesn't necessarily have to be new school stuff. Sometimes just smartly planning hoses and spigots and certain cutoff valves can make all the difference in the world. You know, it's kind of funny how I'm talking about watering as one of the biggest innovations on the farm for automation, because both for our outdoor animals as well as our indoor animal, watering is important, which is why I want to talk about today's video sponsor, Pet Libro. You see, the Pet Libro drinking fountain has been one of the coolest additions to Lil Barn Cat's life. You know, at this point, everybody knows just how important it is for cats to have access to fresh drinking water. Well, Pet Libro is a battery-operated pet waterer, and I've experimented with pet waterers in the past that are ongoing circulating drinking fountains, because those actually help encourage your pets to drink more water. Speaking of drinking more water, I think I see Anna Green Gables here, and she wants to drink some more water too. Well, with the Pet Libro system, it's super easy to set up.
That means you can set the Pet Libro up anywhere without messy cables to power it, and no cables also means it'll be safe for your animals so they won't try to chew through the cord and get zapped. The Pet Libro is also super easy to clean. I was able to get it running in just moments, and I've already had to clean it once, and it was not that bad at all. Lil Barn Cat has been a huge fan of the Pet Libro. Because the Pet Libro fountain doesn't need to be plugged in, I decided to take it outside and test it with the outdoor barn cats too. Molly Murdermittens in particular was a huge fan of the Pet Libro. She liked to drink from it. She liked the fact that when she walked up to it, the motion activated sensor would go off and she'd get some fresh water. And she even liked it so much she didn't want to share it with her daughter Ginny Barn Cat. Wow, Molly, I wish you were just a little bit more generous, maybe. If you want to check out Pet Libro for your pets, click the link down below in the description of this video. And if you use the promo code GOLDSHAW, you'll save 15% on your order.
I think you and your pets are going to really enjoy it. Now, another addition that I've been researching in terms of making my farm more efficient is around fencing. Because particularly with the cattle, these days I'm spending an awful lot of my time working on fencing. On our farm, we move our animals twice a day, which on a daily basis only amounts to about 15 minutes worth of work. The challenge arises is every 3 or 4 days, I have to set up a new paddock, and that new paddock takes a lot of time. And on top of that, I have to have things like perimeter fencing, which keep the animals from escaping. And I spent a good chunk of my summer building fencing, and I still didn't even finish that project. So finding a way to automate my fencing needs is definitely something I've been thinking about, and I found some pretty cool stuff.
Probably the most notable innovation in fencing over the last couple of years has been the rise of virtual fencing. So the idea is what you're doing is you're having your animals wear a collar of some sort, and almost like an invisible fence for a dog, you can create invisible fences for your cattle. Now, oftentimes these virtual fences with their collars have some sort of audio tone or vibration that also indicates to the cattle that they're getting close to the edge of a fence, because there's nothing crueler than suddenly just walking somewhere and being zapped for no good reason.
I'm getting a little tired of this.
Now, for a farm like ours, a setup like this could be absolutely amazing. It could be a total game changer. I could easily move my cattle. I could easily move them 2 or even 4 times a day just by shifting where the virtual fence is and moving them along in the pasture. I could save hours and hours and hours of work not having to fence in other parts of my farm and just focus on creating one big perimeter fence.
So while all this virtual fencing looks really, really cool, I'm not 100% sure that it's right for my farm, at least where things stand today. The functionality of the collars actually doesn't seem quite good enough for what I'd want to do, given the price they're charging. I also have some concerns about whether it'll not even work out around here, because we don't even have cell phone access in this area, and so that might be a whole nother set of infrastructure I have to install to ensure that I can even actually get it set up and working. And I also have some concerns when it comes to an animal welfare perspective. I know that my cattle need the visual barrier of having these ropes to tell them where they can and can't go. And yes, I get that the audio cue would help direct them. I don't know if that's as good enough for them or not. And so honestly, I'd rather see other people try it out and give some feedback on something like that and get a good size of data to reflect on before I try to do anything crazy. Plus, I'll admit, I kind of like moving the cattle the old-fashioned way. Hey, Kels, come on, Kels, fresh grass, let's go. Come on, fresh grass, come on. You know, as I was doing my research for this video to talk to you guys on this topic, I found a lot of other interesting ideas that I don't think are necessarily extremely applicable for my farm, but I could see how they could connect to things in the future. Eat it up, Moo Crew. It won't be long before you're going inside. It's so satisfying to listen to them rip at the grass. Hey, Annabelle, I'll pet you anytime you want, sweetie. She doesn't like to be pet, but she does like to be fed by hand. And I'm talking about things like irrigation drones. Like, imagine if I could feed and water all of my trees with little drones that fly around. Or other things like automated monitoring systems, so I can know the right time to, say, harvest or prune a tree, or when a cow reaches a certain weight, or monitoring pregnancies. Like, all of that stuff could be really useful. Things like automated tractors for haying could also be very, very interesting around our farm. I've also even experimented with things like consumer things like Apple AirTags. I've been trying it out on Toby. I had this dream of making a video where I could make like a family circus map of Toby running all around the farm, and I'd use the AirTag data to track it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that well, so I'm looking at other solutions now. Isn't that right, buddy? Isn't that right? Oh, and don't worry, Abby, you might get one too. You know, there's other things from an automation standpoint that require a more uniform farm than my farm. You know, my farm is a traditional Vermont rugged hill farm. Everything's on a slope, everything's uneven. It's part of how I have to manage the property. But if you look at a lot of the automation and robotic stuff that's available today, so much of that requires uniformity, which I don't have to offer. I think the other challenge I see around all of that is, you know, particularly when you see like these farms that are built in warehouses, I don't think that they're necessarily as efficient and sustainable as some people might think. You know, one of those fundamental and uniform things about farming, whether you're growing row crops or market vegetables or raising things like cattle, it's that you're using the sun to capture the sun's power. With the cattle as an example, we're catching sun with the grass. The grass grows because of the sun. The cattle eat the grass. The cattle grow from eating the grass, and then we end up eating the cattle. So that's how the sun is providing us with food. If you're off in a warehouse somewhere, you're automatically having this ridiculous engineering problem where you're trying to figure out a way to efficiently use the sun in a place where you don't have sun. So for example, if you're using solar panels on the roof of a building to collect the sun's energy, you're automatically going to be less efficient when you then try to feed that energy into, say, a warehouse where you have some sort of vertical farm. I think vertical farming in general is really kind of tough because you just have less opportunities to catch sun. And like I said, I think catching sun is one of the primary activities of a farm. And would you guys look at that? That water trough that I set on when I first came up here is almost full. By the time I get back down there, it'll be entirely full. And Abby Dabby Doo gets to take a drink because she loves drinking out of the faucet, doesn't she? Yes, girl. Toby, though, he's not so much a fan. He'd prefer his regular drinking dishes. But our Abby girl, she loves it right from the fountain. I bet you Abby would like a pet Libro too. I have a hunch that I'm gonna have to run an experiment in the near future. So if the things I've done with my watering infrastructure were the best automation innovation we've had here on the farm, probably the second best has to do with my chickens. Good morning, chickies, woohoo! Sort of tripped over the fence there. Caught on my boot.
There's a snake in my boot.
How are my girls doing? Everybody good? I got a squash here that's a little past its prime. Come and get it. Look at these raptors go. Yeah, you can actually see more of the girls are still going through their molt. Like, look at this Rhode Island red right here. She definitely could use some fresh feathers. But anyway, I'm getting distracted by chickens. So back in the spring, I actually built this new mobile coop. It was meant to be a way for my chickens to move across the pasture, follow my cattle, and help reduce the number of flies that were around, as well as making owning chickens a lot less labor intensive. And I would say, as I come to the end of the 2022 farming season, to say that was a resounding success. The use of the mobile coop is the superior way to keep chickens during the summer months. I haven't had to clean a coop all year. You know, every couple of days I would just move this a little bit. My nesting box setup has left me with very clean, whoop, I just broke an egg, but very clean eggs that I haven't had to wash nearly as much. And probably the best innovation is I installed this automatic coop door that I can open and close with the press of a button. Go back open. Thank you. But it also has a special light detector on it so that it opens about 20 minutes after the sun rises and then it closes again about 20 minutes after the sun sets. That means I'm coming out here to do my chicken chores only once a day, and that saves me time too. When it comes to my ducks and geese, I do wonder if there's versions of this I can also install. Like, who knows, maybe I'll find a goose-sized door that I can install either into this door or into this door, and I can have an automated release of the quacking. But I don't know. One of the things I love about farming is how I get to interact with my animals. And so I'd want to be very, Abby. And so I'd want to be very, very careful to make sure that I still have that ability. I think bringing good farm automation requires good balance and being very thoughtful about how do you improve what you're doing and become more efficient in what you're doing, but also at the same time, not ruin what you're doing too. I mean, if I look at modern agriculture and where it ended up and how we have big ag today, I don't think they ever started with the intention of having the awful system that exists today, but through a progression and series of innovations, things got a whole lot worse. So I don't know, I'm curious to hear what you guys think. So leave your thoughts down in the comments, and if everybody likes this video, maybe I'll do a follow-up to talk about some of the other innovations that are out there. Thanks for watching, everybody.